To show off the session seat features, I've already opened a session and had one of my dummy computers join it. Most of the deep features of an eJamming session are accessed from the session seat, which, as you probably already know, is this area here. Each of these disclosure arrows on the far right edge of the seat open up a different drop-down menu. This arrow in the upper right corner of the session seat will reveal this set of features. This drop-down menu has a few features only the session leader, in this case me, can use, like eject user from session and add track. The most commonly used command in this drop-down menu, however, is the add track command. You can use this item to add a track to any seat in your session. Only playback tracks can be added because what would you do with more live tracks? To add a playback track to any seat, just use the disclosure arrow associated with the seat that you'd like to add the track to. See, just like this. I'll give my dummy computer a new track. You can create either MIDI or audio tracks with the dialog that appears after you hit Add Track. I'm going to add an audio track. Now, each track you add can only be recorded on by the person whose seat you added the track to. The only exception to this is when that player leaves the session, all the tracks that were recorded will be reassigned and given to the leader. So if you've spent all night working on a song and your connection drops, the leader will still have all the tracks you've been working on. Another prominent feature of your eJamming seat, if you are the leader in the session, is the session mode control. All I'm going to say about this is that the control adjusts the mode that the session is in, which is explained in the Your First Session video and also in the Session Modes video. Just to clarify, playback tracks are tracks that audio can be played back on, whether it is loaded or recorded. Any player in the session can have several playback tracks, and they will be listed here at the bottom of that player's seat. Live audio tracks are built into the session seat and control the live audio you hear from each player, including yourself. You can only have one live audio track because you only have one live audio stream, and it is located at the top of your session seat here. eJamming Audio is a very powerful collaboration tool that allows you to record your music using the entire eJamming community as your studio musicians. And when you're ready to record, you will need to record arm the playback track associated with the player you want to record. The playback tracks are displayed right below each player's seat, as we mentioned before, and each playback track has its own fader, pan knob, and mute and solo buttons. Now, the mute button is pretty straightforward. It essentially brings the fader all the way down to 0 at the click of a button. The solo button, however, mutes every other fader, so you can just listen to the track you are soloing. See? All the mute buttons become active when I press solo on any track. Other features you will see whether you are the leader of the session or not are the leave button, which will close the session and return you to the lobby, and the input mute button, which will mute your outgoing audio stream to the other players, in case something is happening you don't want the other people in your session to hear. As I mentioned earlier, the playback tracks are where you will record audio. The new audio you record will be placed in a new WAV file that will be named based on the name of the playback track. So we highly recommend naming each track something unique and something that has to do with what is actually recorded to save confusion later on. eJamming also has the ability to record several takes of audio on each individual playback track, which means you can record a part a few times on the same track, review the recorded takes, and choose the best one later on without losing the older takes you recorded. If you click on the disclosure arrow attached to each playback track, you see the following options. These two dropdowns, Delete Take and Playback Take, will reveal a list of all the takes on that particular track, as you can see here. Playback Take selects the take to be played back from the list, and Delete Take permanently deletes a take that you know you don't want. These features might seem excessive now, but they are extremely useful, as we will demonstrate in the recording videos. Also, under this same drop-down menu, you can use the Load Track Audio command to load an audio file into the track. eJamming only plays well with mono or stereo 48K WAV files, so keep that in mind. Also, remember that if you load an audio file, you will need to use the Send Song command to send the track to anyone else in your session. And finally, over here is the Sync Settings dropdown. Clicking on this will reveal the 3 options to calculate sync delay. Auto, which will take care of itself 90% of the time and is the mode the session starts in. Manual, which allows you to manually enter a number to use as the sync delay. And Distance, which makes your sync delay 1 beat exactly based on the tempo of the song. And there are different uses for each of these settings. Auto, as I mentioned, will take care of everything for you almost all the time. The only reason to change to manual mode is when the other players in the session complain your audio is frequently dropping out. In that case, switch to manual mode by clicking on the disclosure arrow and choosing Manual from the dropdown, and type in a number a little higher than the number you had before, the number with auto mode. The higher the sync delay number, the stronger the connection to the other players will be, but the more difficult it can be to synchronize musically, so it can be a balancing act. Distance mode is the mode to use when you're experiencing really bad dropouts all the time, but honestly, it isn't used all that often because most of the time, manual mode can be raised far enough to stop the audio from dropping out. More information on the sync delay is available in the Sync Settings area elsewhere in the Help tab. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please email techsupport@ejamming.com, and thank you.